Sponsored by Surfshark. Before I spent a week in San Francisco with a $1,300 phone, I went to Taiwan for a peek at a $500 one. If you're shopping mid-range phones, you already know Google's A series brings some of the best value in the game, and the Pixel 10a is no exception. But it's so similar to its forerunner that upon its announcement, many mobile mavens found themselves wondering why it even exists. I can relate, but sort of in a backwards way. I declined the opportunity to review last year's Pixel 9a, in part because of a lack of things to say. But this year, I got the chance to go deeper, with a visit to Google's Pixel Labs in Taipei. There, I got to see how the 10a was tested, from drowning machines to drop tests to pretend posteriors. I'm Mr. Mobile. Take a seat, and let's get to it. Let me start with a hot take. I find the design of the A series profoundly ugly. I get the sense I'm in the minority there, and I think that's because of the modern perversion of the minimalist aesthetic. In today's consumer tech world, there's no higher compliment than, oh yeah, that's clean. But more often than not, I find that's an accolade doled out undeservingly to designs that have deleted all their distinctive characteristics. To me, the 10a looks like a reference design. Its only attention-getting element, its camera pill. And only then because it seems misplaced on the field of nothingness making up the backplate, its radii clashing jarringly with the corners of the casing. As before, the Pixel's characteristic visor is nowhere to be seen. Sure, that lets you slap the thing right up against a window for a no-reflection photo or toss it on a tabletop, but are we that obsessed with flatness? I mean, credit for ditching the wobble, I guess, but the visored Pixels already did that. And at least with them, I could tell top from bottom by feel when pulling it out of a pocket. Fortunately, you can bring back a little character with a case. Actually, you'll have to do that if you want to correct for its other letdown. Despite its siblings garnering near universal acclaim for finally adding magnetic accessory support, the 10a ships with no Pixel Snap charging. Hey, I gave Apple hell for the same decision on the iPhone 16e, so I can't play favorites here. Also, the iPhone 17e seems to have corrected that oversight. On the bright side, Google does offer a palette of pleasing paint jobs, including a lovely lavender and the bold berry of my review sample provided by the company. When I set it up, I keenly recalled the rage-inducing bugs caused by the restore function back when I reviewed the Pixel 10 series. I hate this, I want to throw it into the sea! So I started from scratch on 10a, and that meant I could finally fully theme my icons to match the casing color. That, plus my go-to wallpaper, combined with a little fog effect and a smattering of my favorite widgets, made me feel right at home. It also reminded me what I'd been missing. While many Android OEMs ape the iPhone at all costs, even amid transparent flops like liquid glass, Google blazes its own trail. Its Material 3 expressive design language is equal parts playful, iconic, and, yes, minimal, but here I use that as a compliment. This design emphasizes clarity without sacrificing visual, or for that matter, tactile interest. Coming from a Samsung that underutilizes its vibration motor, the Pixel experience is so rich, with haptic ticks and talks, tied to taps and swipes that serve as a delightfully analog anchor to a digital experience. I had a bit of pause about the Tensor G4 processor when the phone chugged slightly during initial setup, but after that, it's been nothing but responsive, bright, and smooth. About the only complaint you could leverage against this screen, unless you're PWM sensitive, is that the bezels are too big. But I've always been more concerned with symmetry than size, so I'm okay here. I'm sorry to keep referencing the Galaxy S26 Ultra, but I think it's notable that Google has fitted its mid-range phone with a bigger capacity battery than Samsung's flagship. I've spent about 10 days putting pressure on that battery with much more mobile hotspot than usual, and even one 2-day stint spent mostly in standby. The charging is a bit faster this time around, both wireless and otherwise, and as with most phones these days, this one will get you through at least a day. And those universal truths carry along to all aspects of the Pixel A experience. The good stuff I always harp on, like call screening, is, thankfully, still good. I've said it for years, but I think at a glance is one of Android's most helpful features, and the Pixel extends that utility to the always-on display. I like that I can easily force inversion of colors in dark mode now, so those apps that always seared my retinas no matter how dim I made the display now no longer wreck my eyes at night. I'm sure the physical SIM tray will switch over to eSIM next year, but I'll enjoy it while it lasts. And it's nice to see satellite SOS come to the A series too. Other stuff, like, well, all the more modern AI features, Magic Q and the new over-engineered voice dictation, still failed to bear meaningful fruit for me. And while the camera system shows its lack of a true telephoto zoom pretty quickly, its combination of processing and the preservation of the ultra-wide element mean it's still the only camera I'd want to carry in this price range. It certainly did justice to San Francisco when we arrived a few days early for Samsung Unpacked. But it was Taipei that taught me the most about the 10A, thanks to access granted by Google to its testing facilities. I've been on tours like this before from other manufacturers. You might remember my OnePlus Open coverage. But this was my first time seeing how Pixels are certified for the rigors of the real world. I was a bit worried by our first stop in the anechoic chamber, since I feel like every factory tour I've ever seen overemphasizes rooms like these, probably because of how oddly unsettling they can be. But it was cool to see the elaborate equipment custom-built for something as pedestrian as phone calling, which, by the way, the 10A does just fine in my experience. It was really cool to see Google subject the Pixel to a lot of artificial background noise, using speakers bigger than my head. And I will admit that being in a room quiet enough for you to hear your own pulse in your ears is indeed as odd as everyone always reports. Next, we swung through the design labs, where we got to get up close with a lot of Pixel guts. Most interestingly, the gearless hinge from the Pixel 10 Pro Fold in both full-scale and super-scale incarnations. It was also interesting to see how difficult a folding design can make heat dissipation on a phone, which is common knowledge now, but something about seeing it in infrared really drives the point home. Thermal management on slab phones like the A series is, of course, much more straightforward. Next up is the Google Taiwan Reliability Lab. That's what GTW REL Lab stands for, but I call it the torture chamber. Yes, this is the nightmare room for phones, which arrive here in their pre-release phase to make sure they can withstand the world's abuses. Some of this I've shown you before, like the drowning machine that makes sure your phone earns that IP rating. IP68 in the case of the Pixel 10a, but this machine is subjecting this subject to a less rigorous IPX4 or so. Other machines were new to me, like this tumble cylinder meant to replicate a handbag. The purpose here is to make sure the naked phone doesn't scratch too easily after being subjected to a lot of the typical daytime items you might find in a bag like this. And while, yeah, you could load up a real purse and shake it around, this one can run all night to simulate months or even years of ownership. The abuse gets more intense as you push further into this house of horrors. They drop an acrylic ball on the phone from increasing heights to see how both the backplate and the new Gorilla Glass 7i display cover hold up. Samples are subjected to searing brightness to ensure their sensors and screens work together to smoothly overcome the same from the sun. Horrible little robots poke and prod to test touch targets, plug and unplug them from power. A medieval phone gun aimed at the ground hurls pixels at plates of steel or pads of concrete, testing some of them to destruction to realize the true limits of their aluminum frames while filming each impact at super high speeds. And finally, the ultimate indignity. This right here is, well,
You know what that is.
Yes, anybody who remembers Bendgate can tell you, time was you didn't put your phone in your back pocket for fear of it failing by bending. And now, thanks to a little bit of denim, synthetic skin, and a whole lot of pressure from machines like these, we no longer need to worry about sitting on our phones wrong. Again, this is all pretty typical of the testing regime major manufacturers put their phone through, but I found it impressive that not even a mid-range price tag gets the Pixel 10a out of this brutal gauntlet. It has to pass most of the same tests of its more expensive brethren. And none of this overrides my issues with the phone. I still think it's the ugliest of Google's devices, and the lack of pixel snap and over-reliance on AI gimmicks are very real annoyances. But overall, this peek behind the curtain reminded me how complex modern smartphones are, and how many steps go into making sure they survive an almost endless selection of potential abuses and continue to function afterward. The Pixel 10a goes on sale March 5th, and just like every A series that's come before, it's an easy recommend for anyone shopping the Android mid-range. If you're hung up on how little has changed since the 9a, I guess I can't blame you. Nor can I really disagree with those who say Google didn't need to build this. But build it did. This is going to be on shelves in front of consumers, and I think the Pixel experience is superior to almost anything anyone else is putting out at $499. The only competition that piques my interest is the Nothing Phone 4a, which is a totally different device for a totally different customer. Let me know if you'd like me to cover it in the comments. Using a VPN is like wearing pants. All the important stuff stays private when you step foot outside. That's an analogy from channel sponsor Surfshark, a VPN that keeps your browsing between you and the site you're visiting. How? By routing your connection through any of 3,200 servers in over 100 locations. That makes it harder for your service provider to do things like throttle your connection or charge you more based on the type of content you're streaming. It means you can still get web results from your home country even when you're traveling. Helpful when you want to see prices in dollars versus dinero. And you know those pop-up ads that get so intrusive you can't even read the website underneath? With Surfshark's Clean Web mode, you can knock those out. Secure your privacy with Surfshark and get an extra 4 months at the link in the description. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Hey folks, it's disclosure time. Google provided travel and accommodation for media, including Mr. Mobile, to tour the Pixel facilities in Taipei, and it loaned the 10a sample you saw in this review. But as always, you should know that I never give manufacturers any editorial control or even input into my scripts. They don't see the videos before I publish them, and they don't pay me to produce them. Please subscribe to Mr. Mobile so I can keep making videos like this, and check out my latest Galaxy Trifold coverage for more adventures abroad. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones on socials, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.